And my office has been preparing for several months because we've been here before. We faced this challenge before, and we use the rule of law to fight back. And we are prepared to fight back once again. Because as the Attorney General of this great state, it is my job to protect and defend the rights of New Yorkers and the rule of law. And I will not shrink from that responsibility. You see, between 2019 and 2021, the Office of the Attorney General took nearly 100 legal actions against the previous Trump administration. And we have been working both in my office and with other Democratic AGs across this country to make sure that we would be ready to respond to any attempt to roll back our rights. So here we are. We've studied their platforms. We've identified certain possibilities, fact patterns. We've created contingency plans. So no matter what the next administration throws at us, we're ready. We're ready to respond to their attacks.
Let me just say this to Big Tish James, the New York Attorney General. I dare you to try to continue your lawfare against President Trump in his second term, because listen here, sweetheart, we're not messing around this time. And we will put your fat ass in prison for conspiracy against rights. And I promise you that. So think long and hard before you want to violate President Trump's constitutional rights or any other American's constitutional rights. It's not going to happen again.
Letitia James, Director Polte, according to him, Letitia James says that the alleged mortgage fraud was simply a mistake. I want to get your thoughts on that. She put down that her father was her husband in order, and this is very similar to, I guess, the false account.
Letitia James, who is the Attorney General of New York State, it seemed, I'm not involved in that at all. I know that it's being handled by various groups, I guess, but it's major fraud, mortgage documents and fraudulent everything. You know, I think she said the father was her husband, which she had to have a husband, so she chose her father, and she put it down, and she said, didn't she sign in Virginia? Yet she said she lived in Virginia, yet she's the New York State Attorney General. She did that for tax reasons, so she could take advantage of taxes. And she had the wrong number of units. She had a much different number, which wouldn't have allowed her to qualify and scam the government. So I don't know. I think she's very bad for New York, but I really don't know too much about it, but I appreciate the question.
The penalty, and let's deal with that first, is that's what they got rid of. Eighth Amendment theory, that is the constitutional prohibition on cruel and unusual punishments, which applies to the states and which has been applied to gross mismatches between the punishment and the wrong that's proved. This clearly was way out of bounds from in terms of $500 billion or $1 million compared to anything that they proved in the case. So I think we've had signals for a long time that that was going to go, and it's appropriate that it did. As far as the merits of the case go, what James did here was, in a very unprecedented way, take a consumer protection statute that's supposed to apply in a situation where you have like a wrongdoing fraudster who defrauds a bunch of people, none of whom is hurt enough to bring a lawsuit. So that's the rationale for having the state come in and do it. This was a totally different situation. This was Trump, a sophisticated financial actor, with his counterparties who were financial institutions and insurance companies and other sophisticated financial actors who didn't need that kind of protection. State did prove, I don't think they proved to the extent that James contended, but they did prove that there were instances where Trump had exaggerated or manipulated the value of his assets depending on whether he was trying to get a loan or insurance coverage. But the important thing there is that even if you agree with the court that Trump did that intentionally, Trump's own assessments of his assets had an admonition in it encouraging his counterparties to do their own due diligence. And of course, they were in the business of assessing risk, so it's a very de minimis offense.
Pretty incredible. Now I think the bigger question is what happens next. Are they looked at for election interference, Christina? And also, one of the things in this ruling, while they're just dismissing the monetary fines, the judge Peter Moulton says he wonders if there was the law that James actually used to sue Trump doesn't technically require someone to be harmed, had morphed into something it was not meant to do. That seems like lawfare, and they note it very clearly here.
100%. I mean, it's almost like this was never about bank fraud, but it was intended to impact the 2024 election. It was an attempt to create sensational headlines, which it did, in order to harm Donald Trump's chances of getting back into office in 2024. So I'll be curious. Letitia James isn't, the brightest bulb in the room, so I suspect she probably will try to appeal this, but that could backfire. She could take it up to the highest court in New York, and they could end up further helping Donald Trump, which I actually suspect is likely. I think this is a great win for Donald Trump. I think Letitia James needs to be investigated for election interference, as well as the judge. This appeared to be a group effort.
I know you almost want to say Fani Willis. That's a whole other case, though, and we can get into that. Let's play a little bit. She has a DOJ investigation against her. There's claims of mortgage fraud. She could appeal this, John. But President Trump can also appeal the bigger case, since this was just the monetary. He may get the whole thing wiped out. What do you see playing out in the next few hours on Letitia James's front and her reaction?
Well, I mean, this is not just going to play out in the next few hours, Bianca. She has a decision to make whether or not to appeal this and to relive this and force these headlines to be played over and over in New York media when she has her own legal problems. Her aspirations to become governor, I think, are pretty much dead right now, even in New York. I mean, to be slapped like this by a New York appellate court. And with this, the coming attraction here is the criminal conviction. There's all kinds of problems with that, too. I mean, it's almost a near certainty under New York law that will be struck down. I think it's it was highly probable. You never say near certainty as a lawyer. But so the circus of disaster for Letitia James is just beginning. Question is, how much more does she want to wallow in it?
Yeah, well, she hasn't made a statement yet. There's some reports that she says she will appeal. We'll see if she continues her tough talk. Eric Trump posted his reaction, obviously the president's son, saying total victory in the sham New York Attorney General case. After 5 years of hell, justice prevailed. John talking about how Letitia James' future definitely will be in question about what her future looks like, especially if there's these allegations that can be proven against her. The bigger question, too, in all of this, so President Trump now gets his $175 million bond back. I remember that was hard for him to get at the time, too. But what does happen now when we have, does he have any other recourse? Because obviously he won the election. But what are some of his things if he goes all the way to the top of the New York appeals court? This was just a circuit court. He can go all the way to the highest appeals court, Christina. And do you envision him doing just that?
Well, it depends. I think part of it depends on how Letitia James responds. If she's smart, she'll cut her losses and say, oh, well, and try to move on and minimize the headlines, as John said. But if she takes it further and President Trump continues to get further success, I think it's laying the groundwork for malicious prosecution. I mean, she clearly brought this case against him for the purposes of the election, and she did tremendous damage to him. He still won the election, but he had to come up with $175 million in cash. I mean, it defamed him, illegally defamed him. It was not proper. So I think she opens herself up to some real liability here, both criminally and civilly. So she should be doing damage control right now and not trying to puff her chest out.
That's all for today. Thank you. If you want global news to keep you up to date on any new developments, please subscribe our channel and forward our content with your friends on social media and email. Thank you very much for keep supporting me. Stay safe, be blessed. Namaste.
Thank you, God bless you, and God bless America.